and I will have one of our girls get the program started and with the introductions and recitations for now.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to the presentation on the first year of college. I am the moderator for today. My name is Maryam Khurram. I am a rising senior at UT Dallas, and I'm applying to medical schools right now. I will have everyone else on the panel introduce themselves.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Khadeeja Moosa. I am a rising senior at UT Dallas as well. I am majoring in psychology and child learning and development, and I'll be applying to med school next year, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Nadia Khalil. I'm a rising senior biology at UT, and I will be applying to med school this year.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Sahar Elchehabi, and I am currently a rising MS2 at TCOM.
Okay, thank you everyone for those introductions. Before we begin, we're just going to start with a short recitation from the Quran. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Iqra. Oh, okay. Iqra bismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq. Khalaqal insana min 'alaq. Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Allazi 'allama bil qalam. 'Allamal insana ma lam ya'lam. The translation is as follows. Read, O Prophet, in the name of your Lord who created humans from a clinging clot. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught humanity what they knew not. Okay, so let's move on. Oh,
on, friends.
One second. Okay.
See for your plan and everything. They will have it all.
All right. So, what is AMWPA? So, our organization is a nonprofit organization founded in 2008. It consists of a group of female Muslim physicians, dentists, and allied health professionals. AMWPA promotes preventative medicine in the community and has been very active during the pandemic, providing masks and meals for frontline workers. And there are also merit awards to female Muslim students pursuing medicine.
This is bothering you.
I think somebody might have their mic on right now. So please, everybody, make sure that your mics are on mute and hold all questions until the end. We will have a Q&A session. All right. And the mission of AMWPA is to improve the condition of women's health, provide a platform for Muslim women in medicine, and raise awareness of issues regarding community welfare. And AMWPA does this by providing health education and medical resources for women, advancing awareness of issues related to community health, and providing resources for the advancement of Muslim women in medicine, education, and leadership.
Okay, so this is the overview of what we will be covering today. We're taking a little bit of everything from choosing your major, an overlook of a 4-year plan, building relationships, clinical opportunities, non-clinical opportunities, shadowing, research, leadership, your health advising committees, and some general takeaways. As Maryam mentioned, we will be having a Q&A session at the end. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop in the chat, and we'll get to it at the end of our presentation. In the meantime, we can get started. So choosing your major. The first thing you do in college is choose your major, and there are so many options and it can get very overwhelming. The most important thing to remember is to choose a major that you will enjoy. You'll be studying it for the rest of the 4 years you are in college. But I do want to note that you want to keep in mind that whatever you're studying, you will also be accompanying it with your pre-med requirements as well, such as biology, chemistry. Nadia will be going over that in the next slide. So for example, if you're super passionate about computer science, right? You're like, this is something I want to major in while pursuing my pre-med dreams, right? Keep in mind that while you're completing your computer science requirements, you also have to complete your pre-med requirements as well, which might be a little heavy. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. So make sure you enjoy it, but also be mindful that you don't want to take it too difficult, right? And so a lot of most common majors, for pre-meds are typically science type majors, such as biology, neuroscience, and public health. Like I mentioned, I'm personally a psych and child development major myself. And minors can be used to explore your interests. If you have outside of sciences, for example, history, literature, these are a great way to explore more of your interests. And also I would recommend saying that use these minors for something that you are passionate about. These won't make too much of a difference if you're thinking that you're going to take a minor just to become a little bit more competitive. Enjoy your classes, focus on them, do what you want to enjoy.
So once you choose a major, it's important, really, really important to plan out all your classes. I know that we're mainly going to be talking about your first year of college, but as pre-med, it's really important to plan out your next 4 years, because at every school, there's a different way to go about being pre-med. So for example, at UT, a lot of undergraduates tend to take Bio 1 and 2 and General Chemistry 1 and 2 their freshman year. But then at other schools like UTD, you can take General Chemistry 1 and 2 and then Physics 1 and 2 your freshman year. So really all just depends on your personal preference, what you feel like you could be strong at your freshman year. It really just depends on the university and as well as your major as well. So in freshman year, it's definitely recommended to take General Chemistry 1 and 2 your freshman year, because normally at most schools, I believe, Organic Chemistry 1 and 2 is taken your sophomore year. So you want to get Gen Chem first and then eventually move on. And then, Physics 1 and 2, you can definitely do. And then important note, as you notice, there's General Chemistry 1 and 2 lab, Physics 1 and 2 lab, Biology 1 and 2 lab, and Organic Chemistry 1 and 2 lab. These labs are really important to take in person. You cannot take AP credit for it or any kind of credit for it. You must take it in person. And also these labs, it depends on the school you end up going to. Some labs say that you have to take Bio 1 lab and Bio 2 lab. Some places, I know at UT, you can take a course like Bio 206L, and that includes both Bio 1 and Bio 2 lab. So just keep that in mind. In addition, for your freshman year, I recommend that you take English. A lot of medical schools that I've been applying to right now, they require at least 6 hours worth of English or writing courses. You can get some of that, you can get credit for, it depends on the school, but you should take at least one class throughout your 4-year experience in college. In the sophomore year, some students take Biology 1 and 2 in lab. And then of course, Organic Chemistry 1 and 2. And then the Organic Chemistry lab, you can take kind of whenever. Some people like to take it their junior year, not while they're taking Organic Chemistry. Some do. It just depends on your personal preference. And then statistics as well. A lot of med schools require that you take math. And in that math, it includes statistics. So biostats, for example, is a really important class that you should take. Then your junior year, biochemistry. Biochemistry 1 is a really, really important class, I have to say. I know a lot of students who finish their sophomore year and then they start studying for the MCAT that summer after their sophomore year. I recommend that you take biochemistry before you start studying that summer, because a lot of the MCAT is biochemistry, not just the biochem section, but the Chem Phys one as well. So that is highly recommended. And then also take some humanities courses that can range from, anatomy and physiology, other English classes as well. So I just recommend, because they want to see that you guys are well-rounded students as well. And then often your senior year, you'll take some upper division electives for your major that can range from anything to ecology, evolution, cell biology, microbiology, anatomy and physiology. Some schools, actually out-of-state schools for medicine, require anatomy and physiology. So just double check with that school when you're applying your junior or senior year. And one more important note, please only take 12 to 15 hours your freshman year. Do not overwhelm yourself. That's usually around 4 to 5 classes. It's really important that your freshman year, you prioritize your GPA because you want to start off pretty strong. So yeah, we only recommend taking 12 to 15 hours, which is around 4 to 5 classes.
So one of the first things that you should consider when you go into college is the relationship that you build with your professors and new faculty now that you're moving on to this new chapter in life. But this is really important because eventually later on in your undergraduate career, when you're applying for med school or you're applying for different positions or internships, etc., you need to have these relationships with professors or faculty that you found yourself to enjoy, to be most participative in, to have that connection where you can trust that they can build either a letter of recommendation for you, send their name as a reference, etc., etc. So this starts now. I know it's going to be your first couple of classes. You don't really know what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy yet, but that's the point. Whenever you go into a course, you realize you really enjoy the professor you're taking, or you enjoy the content that you're learning, then consider doing these things to start building that relationship. Go to their office hours, not only to benefit you educationally, but also professionally. Build that connection with them. You'll learn how to be able to communicate with these faculty members that you're going to need to speak with in the future as well. Participate actively in class. Again, communicating professionally, so that this is a skill that you're going to need in the future. Showing interest beyond just participating in class. So doing some research on your own if it's something that you're interested in, or if this professor does have a research lab that you want to get involved in later on. This is something we'll talk about later in the presentation. So on and so forth. This is just really important and something you should keep in mind when you're first starting.
Clinical opportunities. Clinical hours are a crucial part of your pre-med journey. They are providing you with like the firsthand exposure to the medical field, specifically with the realities of patient care as well as the healthcare system itself. Clinical hours demonstrate to med school admissions that your understanding of the healthcare system as well as your dedication to it. So it is important to make sure that you have a lot of clinical opportunities, as it makes you a competitive applicant. There are many different ways to get clinical hours, including hospital volunteering, scribing, medical assisting, working as an EMT, a patient care tech, or a certified nursing assistant. So I'll be speaking briefly about each of these, not too much, but just to get you guys an idea. So with hospital volunteering, it's a great way to immediately go in, get your foot into getting your clinical hours early on. It doesn't require a certificate, and each hospital has different types of programs. So the type of patient interactions you have will depend on those programs. I would recommend that if you want to apply for hospital volunteering, that you do so maybe a month or two in advance from when you're planning on starting. It seems like someone's mic is unmuted. If you could please mute it in the time being, thank you. Yeah, I would recommend that applying 1 to 2 months before you're planning on applying, just because there are a lot of people who apply for hospital volunteer positions. So just to make sure that you get it on the time that you want it at. AMWPA health fairs are also a great way to get those clinical volunteering in. They're a great way to help out with the community, be more involved. We have them about 3-4 times a semester. So it's a great way just to get your foot into it. And so for employment, I would like to say that the difference between volunteering and employing, first of all, is the fact that volunteering is much more flexible. For example, with hospital volunteering, you would typically work in shifts for like once or twice a week. However, with employment, you're on a set schedule, you're on a routine, but you will get a lot more patient care interaction with these type of jobs. For example, scribing. Scribing doesn't require a certificate. It does have on-site training. However, it's a great way to start getting clinical hours and really immerse yourself in the healthcare system. I would recommend that if you want to scribe, that you do so with a doctor's office or you work directly with the hospital itself. Then there's medical assisting. Medical assisting, most jobs require a certificate. However, there will be some jobs that will provide you with on-site training as well, which is not typical, but it is out there. Medical assisting is unique in a way that it combines patient care as well as admin. So a typical duties would be like checking in the patients, checking their vitals, and also like handling administrative duties in the back in the meantime. With EMT, it does require a certificate. However, it is one of the best ways to get hands-on patient care experience, especially in an emergent setting. You are the first responder. It does require a certificate that you can get from your local college or like academy. But for example, I work as a volunteer EMT, so it's not necessarily like employment. So it is a little bit flexible for me. But you have the opportunity to work as like a volunteer EMT on campus, or even like if you're looking for employment on an ambulance or as an ER tech as well. And then we have patient care techs and certified nursing assistants. They also require a certificate in order to work in these positions. However, they're also a great experience if you want to get more hands-on. They are much more involved, such as like working as an EMT except in non-emergent settings. And so these are just like a few pieces of advice that I would say about clinical opportunities, is that there are so many options out there, but I highly recommend getting on top of those like early on. For example, even if it's just like hospital volunteering as soon as you can, just because those hours add up super quick. And they will benefit you in the long run if you start earlier on instead of just rushing to get everything near the end towards your application. Like I mentioned, clinical volunteering and employment can differ. If you're looking for something that can provide you with money, employment would be better. But if you're looking for something more flexible, then I would recommend volunteering. And the number one advice I wish I had done is to keep a journal about your experiences. You think you will remember everything, you will not, but that is okay. Keeping a journal will help you remember and look back on these experiences, reflect on them, and they will help you when you're trying to apply to med school in the future.
So clinical volunteering is very important, but non-clinical volunteering is just as important. It's important to volunteer for a cause that you're passionate about, such as, women's relief, child and youth relief, education, disability, disaster relief, like hunger and poverty, even homelessness. Like, you should find a cause that you're passionate about, but do it through an organization. Don't just go directly and try to volunteer at like any sort of nursing home or a homeless shelter, things like that. You should definitely do it through an organization. Many universities have a lot of these volunteer organizations on campus and volunteer departments as well. It's pretty easy to find out about them. Some examples of what you could possibly pursue are hospice volunteering, which, in case you don't know what that is, it's essentially where you go and you visit a patient and who is on life support, and you just talk to them, interact with them, give them comfort, and just learn how to inspire hope in their lives. And you can volunteer at food banks, do donation drives, do fun runs. There's like an endless amount of possibility, and I feel like if you do it through an organization, it's easy to rack up a lot of those hours as well. And then another example could be tutoring. I know at UT they have something called UTeach, which, while it is a certificate, you basically go to schools, like elementary schools, and you teach younger kids how to read and write, and you just interact with them and things like that. And you can do a lot of like volunteer teaching and guiding and mentoring. So just know that that counts as well.
So a requirement for medical schools are shadowing hours. This may sound really similar to clinical opportunities that we mentioned earlier, but this is its completely own sector. And that's because your position as a shadower for a physician is just to follow them along, get comfortable with the clinical environment, whether it's an outpatient clinic of theirs or in the hospital with them. But they do require you to get around 50 to 100 hours by the time you apply to medical school so that they know that you did get exposed to this environment. The good thing about it is you can find any physician you want and ask them to shadow as long as it's okay with them. So it's very flexible. You can do it whenever you have any free time at all. And it can be in any specialty that you'd like. And if you want to switch it up, personally, I started my freshman year with just a week's worth at some specific physician. I went to an orthopedic hand surgeon because I was like, this sounds really cool. That counted as shadowing hours. So I did that for a little bit, then switched over to more primary care, and then switched over to nephrology, like something more specific later on in the years. And so it's very specific, or it's very flexible. You can do whatever you're passionate about. And starting early allows you to rack up those hours. So by the time you get to applying for med schools, 50 to 100 hours doesn't seem like that much. But a really good thing about AMWPA is that we have an entire mentoring group of all kinds of physicians of all kinds of specialties. So if you ever need any help finding somebody to shadow, reach out to us and we will help you find them. And it can be whatever specialty. So go ahead and do that.
So research is a process. I will like to preface this by saying that it is an important part of your application. However, technically it is a soft requirement. However, it is recommended that if you're interested in pursuing research, I would say to start looking early on. So like how we were talking about building connections with your professors, you could ask professors that you're close with for opportunities. For example, I really enjoyed, your class, going into office hours. I would love to be a part of your lab, and also cold emailing professors as well. With cold emailing, usually it's like you say like who you are, give a brief introduction about who you are. I really enjoyed your research, especially about whatever topic that they do research on. I would love the chance to be able to talk, to come in, speak more about your research, and if you have like any availabilities in the lab. What I would recommend, since especially like this is geared towards first years, but anybody can be like applying for research labs, my recommendation is to create a strong resume, like listing out like your skills, just because there's only so much you can have, especially if it's your first time like going into research, but creating a strong resume will give like a stronger impression of yourself. And once again, it is a process. You do have to be patient with it, but just do your best. This is where networking and connections matter a lot. In the meantime, if you guys have free time, or if you're like, oh, I would like to add something that would make me look stronger as like an applicant looking for research, I know at UTD, there are a lot of labs that are looking for students who have experience in MATLAB. So if you guys have any free time, just become MATLAB. Becoming familiar with MATLAB, or like getting a little bit into coding, like not too much. For example, like I work in psych research, but I use JavaScript for some of the projects that we work on. Just getting familiar with that will also help. And if you are interested in MD PhD, I know it's like a little early on, but if you know that's something that you are interested in, look into research early. There are like opportunities out there for a freshman to get involved in research, as well as high school students. I know at UTD. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask about that. But yeah.
So just as it's important to be part of like organizations to obtain like clinical and non-clinical volunteering opportunities, it's also really important to obtain leadership. You'll get asked about this a lot in your applications and in some of the essay questions. So the main way that you'll obtain leadership positions is through campus clubs and organizations. I know I personally joined Global Medical Brigades at UT Austin, and I, was a volunteer brigader for a year before I applied to be travel education coordinator. So it's really important that you start to join these clubs your freshman year, but don't go in immediately thinking like, oh, I have to apply for a leadership position. Try to build like some relationship and some rapport with people, your fall freshman year. And then maybe in sophomore year, but in the spring semester of your freshman year, I know a lot of organizations offer opportunities to run for some leadership positions like president, vice president, and things like that. So if you feel like you've built a pretty strong network in that actual organization, I would go ahead and recommend that you apply to some of these leadership positions in that spring freshman year semester. If not, you can wait till like your sophomore year. I recommend that you hold the position for at least a year or two. It's really important that you show and demonstrate how you've helped a group of people, how you've helped lead a group of people, what impact did you make on your organization. It's important to like maybe journal that down or keep it in mind so that you can, write about it later on. And there's also many leadership opportunities through AMWPA. There's a lot of different college chapters. I know UT and UTD have one, and I know that there's more being built up. So, if you need help on seeking some of those, just come talk to us.
Okay, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the health advising committee at your college. Some colleges have a health advising committee. I know UT Dallas does. And my biggest advice here is go and find your health advising committee at your college and sign up for their mailing list. So each college should have some version of this. And in that mailing list, once you put in your school email address, they'll email you a lot of different opportunities and information that is going to be so helpful, not only for your first year of college, but just for the whole full year, 4 years. So they might give you volunteering opportunities. They might even have research opportunities and just general advice, especially at the time of your application. I did want to mention that a lot of people do not know about this, but some health advising committees offer a committee letter. And this is important around your junior year when the year before you're going to apply. These health advising committees require you to fill out a packet of sorts. They might require an interview, and then they'll write you a committee letter, which is going to be helpful for your medical school admission. So just keep that in mind for the future. As for your freshman year, just your first year, just go ahead and sign up for that mailing list, and it will keep you pretty informed.
So I know we talked about a lot of things today, especially with you coming into this new environment as a freshman in college. It's a new chapter in your life, and now you feel like you have to balance all of these things. Our purpose was to just give you a broad overview of everything that you're going to be doing for the next couple of years as a pre-medical student, as well as some things that you should focus on right now as you're starting. So these are some takeaways that we thought were most important. You should focus on your classes, focus on adjusting to the new rigor of college and doing well in your classes, getting good grades, keeping your GPA up. Honestly, that's my biggest tip for what to do as soon as you get in. You're probably going to be scheduled to meet with your advisor in the first couple of months when you start college or whenever you're registering for your classes. So that degree plan that you set up with your advisor, just stay on top of that. Be flexible because it will most likely will change every once in a while between the semesters in case you decide I want to take something else over something else. That's a later problem, but you will have an overall degree plan with your advisor close to when you start school. Prioritizing work-life balance. I cannot express how important this is because some people think once you start college, that's it. You're not doing anything else, but that's not true. Work-life balance is crucial for you to, keep up your mental health, keep up your physical health, as well as doing really well in your classes. You need to be clear-minded, you need to be happy. So make a really good group of friends. It'll take some time in a new environment, but everyone's going to be in the same situation as you anyway. Everyone's going to a new place. They've never done this before. So along the way, let yourself make a good group of friends and go do things every once in a while. Obviously, not the day before an exam, but have that work-life balance. Find those hobbies that really make you happy, whether it be sports or playing games, whatever it is. Have those hobbies, because eventually, even with applying to medical school, med schools are going to want to hear about that too. Another tip that I thought was really helpful for me, I don't have any doctors in my family. Alhamdulillah, I'm very thankful to be in medical school now, but joining a pre-medical organization helped me a lot with knowing what to do for being a pre-med and applying to medical school eventually. I was involved in a pre-medical organization for the first 2 years of college, and it really gave me the path for what am I going to do next, or how do I prepare for my MCAT, or what do I do with my professors, et cetera, et cetera. So I really highly recommend that as well. Just keep that in mind. Find whatever organization works best for you. You also don't have to at all if you don't feel like you need it, as long as you're happy with the environment that you're in. And lastly, be active with us. Be active with the AMWPA mentorship program. We do a lot of things for undergraduate students who are going through the pre-medical track. And like I said before, connecting you to physicians for shadowing, for example. So be active, be involved, and mostly just have fun. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully we didn't overwhelm you too much. I'm going to pass it back on to Maryam.
All right, so we've reached the end of the presentation and we are ready for your questions. Feel free to type them up in the chat. I will read them out loud and we'll have one of the panelists answer. If you have a question for a specific person, just kind of put their name in the chat or just address the question to them so we know. And you can also just unmute your mic and ask the question out loud and we will answer. So feel free. And in the meantime, I will just start reading any questions we have in the chat. Okay, so we have one question and it's someone asked, is this the same path for becoming a veterinarian? I will say to this question that the application for a veterinarian is the same as it uses the same service if you're applying to Texas schools, as med schools, dental schools. They're all under this TXM SAS, it's different letters. And you do apply to veterinarian school through the same application service. For veterinarian, you might have to get a lot of these, some of these requirements that we talked about, but I would say it's probably a little more unique than the pre-med, pre-dental, pre-health routes. So I don't know if we have a lot of like veterinarian experience in the AMWPA chapter.
And this is Dr. Khan. Thanks for bringing up this question. We will have answers to this in our next session. We will get in touch with some veterinarians and find out if it's the exact same path for pre-veterinarian students, or if there are additional courses that they should be taking.
Okay, perfect. Another person asked, what is the committee letter?
So the committee letter is focused on getting you a packet, quote unquote, of recommendation letters that is a requirement for medical school applications. So going through this health advising committee allows them to prepare a packet that is going to act as your recommendation letter instead of going and asking for individual recommendation letters from each professor. It isn't available at every college or university. Like, for example, at UT Austin, when I was there, they didn't have anything like that for us. So we just had a bunch of letter of recommendation, or for me personally, I got multiple letter of recommendations from different professors. But all in all, if it's available at your school, it's a really good thing to shoot for, and it's going to be used for your medical school application.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that question that I got a committee letter, and basically I had to fill out, like write my personal statement and extracurriculars for them very early on, about 6 months before I actually applied. And I had to do an interview with them, and essentially they just wrote up an evaluation for me, and along with collecting my other letters. Okay, someone else said that, so we mentioned how AMWPA has opportunities for shadowing, research, clinical experience, and would those opportunities be extended to outside of Texas if you don't live here?
I can take that question again. This is Dr. Khan. So we can get you in touch with physicians in your area because we all have alumni through our med schools, and we can get you in touch in your particular cities. So just send us like a message or something, and then we can get you set up with like a mentor physician here in Texas, and then connect you with physicians in your area.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then another person asked, what are some pre-med organizations to join at UT Dallas and some leadership positions you would recommend?
I can take this question. So there are a lot of pre-med organizations at UT Dallas. Right now they're having career fairs like at on campus as well. So some of them include AMWPA. There's also AMWAS for women like association, like American Medical Women Association. There's also Molding Doctors. We also have a global brigade at UTD as well. There's like quite a few, like if you search up pre-med or med at UT Dallas. And so for leadership positions, it depends on the year. Most of the time, like you'll see like during the spring semester, just like Nadia said, people will be graduating. So they will need to fill up those positions. So leadership positions typically include like a normal like club position, such as, president, VP, secretary, and more. There are other clubs, for example, Nourishment is a club at UTD where they provide mentorship for high school students interested in medicine and engineering. So for a huge organization like that, they also have different committees that they have like, oh, okay, so you'll be in charge of like this aspect of this committee and whatnot. So there are a lot of opportunities out there, and there are so many organizations. Usually for most like colleges as well, not just for UT Dallas, there is like a website where they list all the organizations, and they're usually sorted. Like if you search up med or pre-med, you'll find quite a few. So hopefully that answered your question.
Let me add to that. With the term leadership position, it doesn't just mean that you have to be president of a club or vice chair for a club. It means being active in the committees so that you can say, okay, I was the finance person for this committee, or I was the event manager. So those are also leadership positions.
Yes, I also wanted to add that it doesn't even necessarily have to be a position. If you are a mentor of some sorts, so we have a mentoring program with AMWPA. If you sign up to be like an MCAT mentor after you take the MCAT, that's another form of leadership. So even teaching, there's some leadership involved in teaching, and you can write about that. Okay, and we have another question. Will AP credits cover the medical school required classes like physics, or is that just for university?
I think I can take this one. So AP credit, I've heard some different things throughout the years, but the thing is that you can use AP credit to cover some basic bio and gen chem and physics classes. The only thing is that a lot of medical schools don't like it when you do it for the science classes. It's okay if you take AP credit for classes like, English, even sometimes psychology and sociology, but not like the main required science classes. That's what I had to do. I did have credit for basic physics and biology, but I couldn't skip it because my advisor, they recommend that I take the actual class at UT because medical schools prefer that. They don't want you to take the AP credit and then you end up taking the upper division class and you're not ready for it. So.
Okay. We have another question. So someone's son is a senior in high school in a track program. And are there pre-med students who are in a track program, and how does that impact? So I think maybe a little more information on what a track program is, unless anyone is familiar with that.
I'm kind of familiar with it. In my high school, I was part of the Khurram Medical Academy, which is a pre-medical track program for students who are interested in going into medicine. I will say that it did have some impact. A lot of the Khurram Medical Academy experiences that I had, such as like some of the doctors that I shadowed and, some of the pre-health activities I did with the Khurram Medical Academy, I have talked about in a lot of the essays that I have written for medical school, because there are some medical schools that allow you to talk about your high school experiences, but in the actual application, there's not really that much room to put stuff in from high school unless it was like this summer right after your senior year, if that makes sense. So you can definitely mention it. I'm just not sure which medical schools will want to see high school or not. Some will, some won't. It's mostly college.
I'll jump in about specifically track and field. So he is in high school, and just bouncing off of what Nadia said, that is true. If it's an activity that was before the summer between college and high school, like after they've graduated, you can't put it on your application. But if it's something that he enjoys that isn't affecting his studies, that isn't affecting him, and it's something that he can carry on over into undergraduate, and it's something that he'll enjoy there, then I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's something he'll definitely be able to put onto his application if he does continue it in college. And if it's something he's passionate about, he'll probably have a lot of stories from it and be able to talk about it. So in terms of impacting your application, right now in high school, there isn't really anything that will impact your application because all activities have to be from the semester after you graduate high school or the summer after you graduate high school. But if it's something he'll continue on with, then that would be beneficial to him as long as it doesn't distract him in any way.
I will also add here, being a medical school interviewer, I think it's really important that you show your passion about things from early on. So any experiences in high school will just add to your to the strength of your application.
Okay, so we have a question. What is HPAC? Is there a requirement to join? And I can kind of just hop on that question. So HPAC is the Health Advising Committee at UT Dallas. It might not be called that at every university. So at UT Austin, I believe it's called something else. And there's no requirement to join it. It's just helpful to maybe sign up for their mailing list because they do have a lot of opportunities and advice to give you. You can always email them if you have a question, and there are advisors that can answer all these questions you have about what pre-med classes there are or what college activities should I do. So it's just a good resource for you, but it's not a requirement at all. I would also just say keep it in mind if they do write you a committee letter for your junior year of college. Other than that, just sign up for the health advising emails, and that would just be a helpful resource. All right, one person asked, how do you recommend getting in touch with other pre-med students when you go into university?
I can take this question. So when you go into university, I think the easiest way truly to get in touch with other pre-med students are the people in your classes. Number one, easiest way to make connections, making those study groups, getting to know a little bit more about them, be like, oh, what's your major? Oh, mine too. What are you doing? Pre-med. No way. Same, right? Like you guys are all taking, like, you're going to see them for the next 4 years probably. But another way, organizations are honestly the best way outside of classes to meet other pre-med students. Pre-health organizations, I know I keep mentioning this, but are the best way to meet other students who are like-minded like you, who are also pursuing the same path, taking, action for like what they want to pursue as well, just because there are different groups of people, different types of people. So you probably want to see not just pre-med, but also someone that shares like the same values or the same like outlook on life as well. So organizations, classes, and I think like also this was like an experience for me, like anytime that I had a clinical opportunity, I would just meet students who are from UTD as well. And we would bond over the fact that we both like had similar classes, we just never met each other. So you'll meet people along the way, but the first step is literally classes and organizations. I know for some people, I would say I'm an extroverted person, but for some people, like even if you're introverted, it's so easy to just start making conversations with people in this type of environment. So just bring yourself out there, get to meet new people, and have a group of friends that like find a group of people that you feel like good around, that help you.
Okay, and the same person also asked, how do you suggest managing time in college? So schoolwork wise, finding time for your family, time to study for the MCAT, time for experiences, clinical, volunteering opportunities. How do you balance all of that?
I can take this one. So I'd recommend, I remember my freshman year, I just sat down and I was like, okay, I want to like plan all this out. Like just have like a general plan of what you're gonna do. Like, I know like it's really good to like plan your summers and semesters in general. You don't have to know the basics, but I remember like I was like, okay, the summer after my freshman year, I'm just gonna dedicate it to volunteering and shadowing, and then doing that. And then, the summer after, like the semester after that summer, I'm going to do research. And then that summer after, I'm going to focus on MCAT. So I would say utilize your summers a lot. That's really, really key in school. And then during school, I would say focus on your classes and then do either some clinical or research work part-time. I would recommend doing that as well. And then of course, weekends, I would make time for family and friends. That's what I would normally do. I work hard Monday through Friday, and then the weekends would be, for some more personal things. So that's how I managed to do it. I don't know if anyone else has any other suggestions.
Yeah, Nadia, I can jump onto your point. She's so right about taking your summers, like managing like during that time. You have so much time, especially like if you're not taking any classes during that time, to get those hours in, clinical hours, shadowing, all that stuff. I would also recommend that I think a lot of people like over exaggerate how much they study. Like when you're like, the way college is that it's not like in high school, right? Where you're sitting in one place from like 8 to 5, just like in school, you're constantly studying, you come back and do homework. Like you have a lot more flexibility in college. And so you're choosing the classes that you want to take, you're choosing the classes that you want to study. It's on your own timeline. And so I think that you know yourself how much you need to study. Like you'll see people being like, oh, I was studying like all day yesterday. No, they were not. That's okay, And the thing is, sometimes you'll have those days actually that you're studying all day, like for example, before a test, but you are allowed to give yourself time. You are allowed to plan and give yourself time to have that work-life balance. Like truly do not burn yourself out, especially in your first year. Do not. I would not recommend doing that. I utilize a planner a lot. I have to plan ahead to see how my week looks like. I would make a list of all my commitments and be like, okay, like where am I going to put it in, what day, just so that I would give myself time like in the evening or at a certain time to give myself a break. So it seems like a lot. It seems like it's overwhelming, but truly like you will have time. You will get there.
And
Yeah, and
jumping onto that,
yes. No, go on.
I was just saying I completely agree. I also religiously use a calendar. I use my Apple Calendar. I did a couple years ago, still onto it to this day. It really helps you get an overview of the week. And then about the summers, that's very true too. About how flexible you are in college, that's extremely true, which is why I just want to emphasize be able to manage your time properly, because you're not used to having this much time than, like, compared to when you were in college or in high school, I mean, because she did make a good point about being in class from 8 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever the time may be. It's not gonna be like that anymore, so you don't want to feel like when you're not in class, you don't have to do anything. That's not the case. Like, make sure you're allotting some time in the mornings for studying, for example, and then you can give yourself the rest of the day off, and then oh, you know what? I'm gonna volunteer from 12 to 2 on Wednesday because there's an event and I'm available for it, you know? And so that's why I really recommend the calendar, like a lot, or however you keep organized, and then just making sure you're managing your time right.
And I just wanted to add one more thing to that. And that is, I know we talked about a lot of different things you're expected to get, but keep in mind you have 3 years to get all those things. And that's if you want to take a gap year, then that's 4 years to get those things. So if you like plan early, if you have these things in mind and know I'm going to do this on this time, this maybe during this year, then these things you start falling into place and you can get experiences in all these different categories. All right, so these next two questions are a little bit similar. So one person asked, is it smart to go through the Richland Collegiate program to graduate with an associate's degree and skip 2 years of college? And then kind of like on the same vein, someone else asked, would you recommend going to a community college for the first 2 years of college and then university for next? So kind of minimizing your time in university and getting some hours.
I can start off the conversation because I feel like a lot of us, like all of us will have something to say about it, but truly it depends on your situation. It depends on why you want to go to community college or if you want to get your associates like beforehand. It truly like it's just a situation dependent. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. It's situation dependent, right? If you're looking for if it like looks better to have like an associate degree, if you're trying to go through it faster, then if you're trying to prioritize like getting that done faster, I don't think it makes too much of a difference unless you're planning to like apply like super quick. If you're trying to get everything done in a rush, like not in a rush, but like quicker than like a typical pathway of like 4 years. It just depends on how you're using your time then, just because if you are planning on like doing it in 2 years and then like graduating early, whatever the situation is, then you also have to have the idea that like you have to get all the requirements in, such as like clinical hours, non-clinical hours, as we did just mention. If it's a situation of like money, just because that is like honestly most of the case, I'm personally a supporter of community colleges for the first 2 years. The first 2 years usually are pretty similar for everyone. When you're getting your required classes and you're taking Gen Chem, you're taking bio, you're taking all those classes. And we do like, especially UTD, we have a lot of transfer students from community college because we have Colin right here. And I think Dallas as well. So it depends on what you feel like is best in your situation. Is there anyone else that wants to add to that?
I will say that med schools are not gonna look down on community college. They're totally fine if you get community college credits. So if you maybe if you want to take your science classes, like especially the more rigorous ones, biology, chemistry, biochem at university, but then do your other classes at a community college, that's completely fine. And if that's what you want to do, go for it. I'm not too familiar with the Richland Collegiate program, but if essentially it's just skipping 2 years of college, I just want to echo what Khadeeja said, that if you're skipping 2 years, now you have less time to get in all these activities. So just keep in mind whenever you're deciding to do community college, skip 2 years, or just do your 4-year typical path. All right, so it looks like we've kind of reached the end of the questions in the chat. If anyone has more questions, feel free to just type it in the chat right now. You can even unmute your mic and ask. Okay, we have another question. So what classes could be taken from community college?
Government.
Yeah, it also depends on what you mean by community college. Like, do you mean taking them during the summertime or just for the first 2 years and then transferring? But I can talk about both. The first 2 years of your college degree is going to typically be a lot of your core classes anyway. So it'll be your English, your government, your history, the basic sciences, like we mentioned. Those are all going to be in the first 2 years. So that is what could potentially be taken in the community college if you do 2 years of community college before transferring to university. But if you're talking about also, me personally, I took community college classes in the summer times between to knock out some like smaller core classes. Like I took my second English course at my community college here in Houston, local community college, as well as second government. That was also a requirement so that I didn't have to take it at UT when I went back for the semester. So both of those are okay. Just emphasizing what we talked about earlier, wouldn't recommend if you're going to transfer credits for the important more important science classes like biochemistry and the labs. But if it's because you took the courses for 2 years in total at the community college, then that's a different situation. So that's what it would be typically, are all your core classes.
Yes, and I also wanted to say that math typically can also be taken at a community college. I took my calculus at community college. That's another common thing that people do. All right, if you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat, unmute your mic. We'll stay on here for a little bit more just to answer any other questions y'all have.
Can we also share the link to that mentoring form if you're still taking any mentees or maybe for the next year? So for anybody who did not sign up for mentor-mentee program, they can have access to that.
Yes, we have to look into that, whether the program is taking more students at the moment. But we can send that in the WhatsApp group. So if you are a student, pre-med student, and you want to join the AMWPA WhatsApp group, just send us a message and we can put that link in the chat, and we can put our slides in the chat and any other links. And also this will be posted on YouTube. So you can always go back to this recording. All right, I'm seeing no more questions. Once again, we're going to stay on here for a few more minutes and just answer anything anyone else has left to ask. So thank you so much for attending this program, and let us know if you want to join any WhatsApp group or if you need the YouTube link. But thank you so much for attending the program.
Thank you, Maryam, and everyone else for doing this. Fantastic, great job.
Very welcome.
can end the recording now. And thanks, everybody. This was excellent.